I think I didn't know it was intuition, because I know that the same feeling I've had has happened to me when I was a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
I was able to connect that back together again.
Okay.
Because, like I said, when I joined the military, my intuition kind of took a back seat. But when things started occurring when I was deployed, I started making connections back to childhood, back to experiences, back to whatever, was able to relate. And I
Gotcha.
knew that there was something going on with me. And now I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention to this a little more. There's
Yeah.
something more to all this, you
Yeah.
know?
Welcome to the Intuitive You podcast, where we explore the concept of intuition from multiple perspectives, learn how intuition manifests itself, and the various ways it is naturally utilized in our world and daily living. I'm your host, Chantal Denise Goslin, a scientist, a lifelong seeker of knowledge, an intuition teacher, and a passionate educator. Get ready as we dive into the mysteries of intuition and discover how it can enhance our lives and change our world. Hello, dear listeners. Before we tune into this juicy episode, I want to let you know that Eric has written a part of the story that you'll hear today in a recently published book called Ignite Your Purpose. Ignite Your Purpose is an inspirational book designed to help people awaken to their purpose and therefore shine their light on the world by making a difference. It's filled with powerful stories of purpose. There are exercises to complete and action steps that you can take immediately. I can speak for myself that reading Eric's stories and others in that book definitely inspired me to keep doing this podcast, by which we can learn from each other and spark the magic through storytelling and personal experiences. You can purchase the book through the link placed in the description below. Now on to our episode. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And today we have a special guest. All guests are special, but a good friend of mine that I met through Atmana Academy. We both are certified intuitive coach. His name is Eric Longoria. Eric is a military veteran for the US Army. He's also married and a father of 3 boys and also a graduate of Atmana, as I mentioned. And he's been practicing as an intuitive breakthrough coach. Eric, welcome. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having me on board.
Yeah. So just a little backstory. Eric and I, like I said, graduated from Atmana together, and we've had chances to be in breakout rooms and share a little bit about each other's story. And that's kind of like what sparked me to have you as a guest, because you have some good juicy stuff to share with us today. So with your background in the military. So first, please tell us about yourself. How did you went from being in the military to now being an intuitive coach?
Wow, I was in the military and I ended up retiring out in 2014, right out of high school, And then through my journey of transitioning from out of the military, I kind of was figuring out like, what do I do next? Like, what do I want to be? You know what I mean? When I grow up, type of deal. So it took me some time to actually get in the corporate job, you know what I mean? A corporate work. I ended up going to college, University of Phoenix, got my business degree. Maybe that I figured that, I think my intuition led me to go there. Like, hey, you need to learn some aspects because I did do some work at some jobs to where I just feel like that wasn't for me. Like I felt like I was more called to it. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
was paying the bills. It was good, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I realized there was some issues with my health that I wasn't taking care of myself. Because being in the military, you get kind of beat up a little bit with the back, with everything about your body. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got out in the military and eventually I got married and got married, I was just work, 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 and my back was hurting, my legs were hurting, like everything was. And so I was kind of like weighing out my options as far as what do I do? Am I going to like do this grind, you know? And yeah, it pays the bills on all, but it's just it's not what I want to do. But then again, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew it was like somewhere in the distance.
Mm-hmm.
So as I went to job and I eventually got promoted. I was working at a telecommunication company. Good job, operational manager. But something just felt like it was missing. Like I was helping people in that type of work or whatnot though.
Yeah.
But as I was meeting with clients and with people, I just started feeling like there was more things going on with them than solving the service and product aspect of things. What I mean? You
Yeah.
know, and where I was working at the time, I just had like random people, always having couch time with me. I'd be working on my computer. Hey, how you doing, Eric? Hey, you know what? My life. Blah. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, we're going that way. So through the workforce, I eventually helped a little people along my way. As like I guess mentoring or some sort of coaching. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So and then eventually, I think around 2000. I think 2018, my little brother passed away,
Mm.
you know, and that was hard. He ended up taking his life.
Yeah, I bet.
And the thing is that I knew something was going on, and I did my best to try to help him out or whatnot, though. But I knew no matter what I did, it had to be his own realization to transform his life.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a point to where I had to, love at a distance, because I was going through some hard times. Because coming out of the military, I mean, you go through some stuff, depression, anxiety,
Yeah.
whatnot. There's a list of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was dealing with all that stuff internally, but also I was trying to like help everything in my family. You come out of the military with a, with a, when I was in the military, I had a squad, I had a platoon, to take care of whatnot though. And then when I got out in transition, it was like, well, where's my squad? Where's my platoon? So I guess you kind of like take on the world because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know what your mission and objective is anymore. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you just want to like help everybody, but then again, you just start, getting draining. You just drain yourself, and then you just kind of just get like a ball of nerves, and you just like something's not right.
Yeah.
So, anyways, he had there was a time where he did that, and it was a sad time. And I think uh, at that time that hurt me for a little bit because it felt like, well, if I can't help him, I can't help anybody. I had that mentality. And then in like 2019, something was telling me like, hey, Eric, things are changing in the world. You can see it politically and whatnot, though.
You could feel
It
it.
was different. It wasn't just the gibberish. It was the intuitive between the lines. It was the strategic mapping on the cognitive side. You know what I mean? Like something's going on, something's transitioning, something's changing, and where I'm working now, things are going to be different. So something told me, hey Eric, you need to move. You need to go remote. You need to like figure out, how to work on yourself and like the business aspect. Use your degree that you got, dude. You know what I mean? And so I did. So I started searching online or whatnot. I went through actually a program before Atmana,
Okay.
and it was all about sales, how to do sales remote, contracting and whatnot. And I'm like, that's a good idea because I talked to a guy that was working with me, and he was a Vietnam vet, ATF, like great guy.
Yeah.
And he did contracting, you know, so he kind of inspired me. Like, you know what, Eric, you can always go that route. The real reason why I'm here is because they gave me an office and a desk. You know what I mean? And I like being around people, and I don't want to be stuck at home. And I'm in my 60s, and I like being around people, so that's why I'm here. So that little breadcrumb stuck in my head. And then so I decided to go through this program I went to, and it was about sales and how to do everything on. So I did that. So I ended up doing some sales, and then I realized I felt to the same thing. It was just a service and product. And the more I talk to clients, the more I talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
B2C, B2B, I can just see something inside of them that they were struggling with. Yeah, I was able to help them out with the surface stuff, the material
Mm-hmm.
stuff, which was great. You know what I mean? But it was something deeper. And then something was telling me, okay, you're on the right track, but you need to keep searching.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I had like a dream where something was telling me, look, Eric, you need to start transforming yourself, mind, body, and spirit. You know what I mean? You're still kind of a hot mess. You know what I mean? You know,
I
you're on
love
the
you,
right.
but you're a hot mess.
He's like, yeah, we still got some work to do on you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I started having some dreams where it was just like, look, you need to start tapping into, yourself, your gifts, the gifts that you think that's a coincidence, the gifts that you think that that you just got
Random.
lucky.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you know what I mean? The things that you feel like, oh, it just, it was just a good day today. You know what I mean? So I started really going in deep to where it's more than that, you know. And I've had this since I was a kid, and I'm sure we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah, we will.
So I started going, okay, I need to start searching, educating myself, learning. And I realized that. And I was a guy that I didn't like reading books. Nope. You want to get me to read a book for nothing. I was a YouTube video, quick, whatever, you know what I mean? And then eventually they're like, Eric, you need to read. And I'm like, I don't want to read, man. What am I gonna read then? You know? So I started reading some good books where it really got me thinking about myself internally, not
Hmm.
exterior, not external, but more internally. And then I started really looking into like the psychology and the biology and how we function and how we operate,
To
uh,
understand.
of the way we're supposed to operate. You can say, you know what I mean, instead
Hmm.
of instead of the surface living of the world. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden things started clicking as I was reading books. Well, I ended up starting doing audio. The reading I couldn't do, so I do a lot of audiobooks.
Hmm.
And
Me too.
then the more I started doing audiobooks, my intuition starts kicking. Boom, boom, boom. Like the more I leveled up on certain concepts and certain things, the more my intuition was like, okay, now I can give you the information you need because you can understand it. You understand what
Okay.
I'm saying?
Yeah, you had the language, you had the vocabulary to be able to understand the symbolic messages that intuition would be sending you.
Exactly. Some people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I just wanted to. No, you're not ready. What do you mean I'm not ready? I'm like Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? Trying to, what it
Love
is.
it.
You see what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I had to do my due diligence and put the time and the work within myself
Yeah.
to be ready and to understand that the information that was coming to me.
Yeah.
And there was a point to where I was like, okay, I can go to YouTube, I can read these books, I can do all that stuff though, but I need to find a mentor, somebody that knows what they're talking about, something that instead of being all scattered, let me hone in and talk to an individual or be part of a group of community to where I can really take the time to understand instead of trying to filter all the other stuff out. Because you
Hmm.
take in information and data and books or whatever though, but you kind of filter out. You get out the BS or you take out the concepts that you understand and you go
Yeah.
from there.
Take
But
what you
it's
need.
yeah, but it's never. I think it's never to the point to where you can really fully understand. So I started. I'm in my room and I'm like, and I know as I was Googling and YouTube and a lot of intuition, a lot of these things started popping up. And I'm like, and something told me that you need to help. You need to help people. You need to be a coach. And I'm like, a coach? What do you mean? A basketball coach? A football coach? I'm
Say
like, I don't want
what?
to be. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't understand. And at the time, my brother passed. So I had this
Sorry.
thing where I'm like, well, how am I supposed to help if I can't help? Couldn't help him. You know what I mean? So that was like in the back of my head.
Mm.
But I eventually was looking for. I remember typing in the search, uh, intuitive coaching. Just like randomly. And then all of a sudden,
Google it.
Heather Ellis Shea. I'm like, who's this? Who's this person? You know what I mean? And so I clicked on it and I did the quiz and all whatnot or whatever. And I started joining doing the workshops.
Mhm.
But at the same time, as I was leveling up with myself, I started going to the gym. I started getting help, with my back and with certain aspects of my health. And then as I was doing that, I started feeling different in myself. I started feeling more healthier mentally, the
Mhm.
body, and
Mhm.
spiritually. And as
Mhm.
I started finally aligning, you can say, the intuition and your gifts, your talents, my dreams, like things started being more effective and more and
Kicks
more.
in.
So I was like, okay, I'm feeling more of this direction. So I need to keep working on. I need to keep doing the things that I'm doing, so I can receive more and I can understand more and comprehend more, and continue to move in that direction, a
Mhm.
foot in front of the other. You
Mhm.
know. And then it took me about a year before I joined Amana. You know what I mean? Because I was working on myself. You know, just her workshops alone, that was enough for me to go, okay, I'm not crazy.
Yeah, it started to open some doors from what I'm hearing, right? You open a door, you go through, then there's another door, like the breadcrumb trail. You just
Mhm.
one nugget at a time.
No, exactly. It was like doors started opening and then conversations started opening, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I'm on the right track. And then
Mm-hmm.
about a year later, I joined, and just from that information, just the experience and the knowledge and just the unconditional love, just everything about the experience in that program, I was able to actually find peace within myself and a lot of things that I was going through, and I was able to forgive and give myself some grace about my brother and some other things that was going on
Mm-hmm.
in my life, and felt like, what, this is I think this is my calling, me to
Mm-hmm.
help. And then as I was going through the program at the gym, I started randomly running into people, and they started talking to me, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
all right, there's something going on with this.
Yeah. I'm sure you got the typical or classic, like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but
Yeah,
da 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 da.
I get that a lot. I get it out of the park, at a restaurant. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife's like she's already cool with this. She's like, yeah, she's like, okay, you know
Here
what?
we go.
I'm gonna be with the kids over here. You when you get done, you get done.
You do your thing.
But I think one of the biggest struggles for me as a man is that I kept everything hidden inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
I figured I'm gonna do this alone and figure all this out alone, and then my life's gonna be all better.
Mm-hmm.
No, man, that wasn't the case. I started realizing, like, I really started to stop hiding and really start getting myself out there, not just, for coaching purposes, but just for relating with people,
Mm-hmm.
connecting with individuals, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
really, just transforming myself and getting rid of that old self image and creating my new one.
Mm, amazing. Good story. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I know I do. I relate to your story very much. When you mentioned that you were hearing that voice, like a calling, like something just bigger telling you to keep moving forward. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that anything that you were doing seemed like it was like bad. It's just like something else was calling for you, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
was like you were doing it, the money was coming in, but it was not like fulfilling. There was something more that your higher self, your intuition, or your
Yeah, no, you're right. The thing is, it got to the point where when I left my job, it was a big decision.
hmm
I remember I came to my wife and I'm like, babe, I'm hurting. I'm messed up. I
hmm
gotta tap out. I
yeah.
gotta. I can't do this no more, man. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I'm leaving. I wake up and they're having breakfast without me, and I come home and they're having dinner without me.
hmm
And I'm supposed to do this for 20 years, and half the people I
hmm
worked with were I can feel all the feelings. They were stressed, they were angry, they
hmm
were mad. I can just feel all the emotions. And I was
hmm
like, I can't see myself just doing this and doing this.
hmm
I'm gonna go insane. Everything that I was going through.
hmm
And I remember I sat down with my wife and I talked to her, and I'm like, look, I can't do it. So we ran the numbers, we ran the budget, and and whatnot. And she's like, look, if we gotta, reduce what we got to do, and get that good foundation. And we ran
hmm
the numbers. She's like, we're
yeah.
good. Things are gonna be kind of you know what I mean? We gotta cut down, maybe not eat at a restaurant so much, but we can do it. But she's like, I just want you to get better.
hmm
So that helped me out because it was the support.
yeah.
My wife had my back. You
Good.
know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was good enough to where I was able to talk to her about that.
hmm
And I was vulnerable with her, and I was like, I can't do it. And I
hmm
know I'm the provider, and I'm this, I'm supposed to be, but you know what? I was like, and she knew it. She's like, you're hurt. You got to figure it out. So she's like, whenever you're ready, just leave. And you know what? When my wife did that, that was, you know, that took so much weight off my shoulders.
I bet.
It just made me move. I was like, wow. So when I went to work, and it took me a few months, but I was able to really focus and really, when that pressure was gone, I was
hmm
able to be more clear on what my decision was going to do and what I was going to do. And
hmm
at the same time, when that pressure came off of me, my intuition was more clear.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand that that's an emotion
Yeah.
that's going to affect everything in that alignment. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that helped me out, and I made a decision to go. And when I went, that was my journey of my transformation.
I'm glad you're mentioning the emotions because when it comes to intuition, you got that fear that will block you, the
Mm-hmm.
doubt that will creep in, and your ego will start to make up all these stories of like why following your intuition it doesn't make sense. It seemed very
Exactly.
illogical
Mm-hmm.
at first, but I found that, and I seems like it's the same for you. You make like one small change and then another one, and slowly it starts to open up doors, like you mentioned, and things
Yeah.
starts to follow through. But it's kind of like just breaking through that first. It's like going to the gym. You don't really want to go. But if you can just like do that first step and start like moving for 5 minutes, and then you can be in the gym maybe or outside doing something for like 30 minutes, an hour, and you're like all happy and you're feeling well. But it's like breaking through that first momentum, gaining that
Yes.
momentum and getting the ball rolling. And then
Mhm.
slowly things start to make more sense and fall into place. And like you said, the random synchronicities that are not so random start to appear. So I'm glad you're touching on that. I think that's a valid point.
Yeah, and you know what? That workout, that gym analogy is perfect. As I
Yeah.
was going to the gym, I had to get a program. I had to figure it out. I had to schedule. I had to do all this stuff. And it's the same thing when it comes to learning about yourself. It could be intuition, it could be whatever, but a better
Mhm.
human being, you can start, okay, this has to be repetition. This has to be a schedule. I have to read this, or I have to get educated on this. It's the same work. It's just same concepts. It's
Yeah.
just, it's just doing it, making those
Yeah.
steps.
Absolutely. So, you mentioned gifts. You mentioned that your ability to sense, you're very aware. I'd like for you to share your stories, how intuition saved your life when you were in the military.
I was deployed to Iraq in '03. You know, I was in Baghdad, Sadr City. That's where I was deployed to. And as once I came out of high school, went in the military, I feel like my intuition kind of like took a back seat. Because
Mm,
anybody that's been in the military, man, you're all stressed. You're just trying to just be a soldier. You know what I mean? Because you go to basic training, then AIT, and you get right into it. So the last thing I'm thinking about is intuition, man. I'm just hoping I don't jack up and mess up, and then
mm.
everyone gets mass punishment, and I'm late, and I don't got my gear straight. You know what I mean? I'm not squared away. So
No mistake.
you get all this. So my intuition was like, oh, I'm in the back seat now. Like this guy's, just
Following orders, just like
yeah,
no errors, gotta go, grind.
yeah. It was just boom, boom, boom. Don't be late. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
make your
just
bed.
just yeah, just do all this stuff, and I felt like my intuition and it took a back seat, and of
Hmm.
course, being in the military, you go through all that stuff. You go in the party, you go to you go clubbing, you go weekend, you just live this military lifestyle back then when I was in. So yeah, and it wasn't until I we deployed where you got rid of the club, you got rid of showing up the formation, you got everything kind of changed, you know what I mean, because now you're going into war,
Hmm.
so a lot of that clutter kind of went away. And I remember after we picked up all our ammo and all our stuff in Kuwait or whatnot, we traveled we drove. This was before there was an airport and before BIOP got built. I mean, I think BIOP only had like 10,000 troops then, you know what I mean? And now it's like a
Hmm.
freaking city now.
Really?
But this was bare, where everything was like bare bones. So we didn't even go on Route Tampa. We didn't even go on the hardball. We ended up going through the desert, to avoid
Driving.
being attacked and getting hit by IEDs or whatnot.
Yeah.
So that was a time where I was honed. I was like, stay alive. You know what I mean?
Dialed in.
Exactly. And I think when that transition happened, that's when everything that from a kid and through high school, intuition's like, well, now I'm here to let's save your life.
Mm.
Like strategically, like everything. Like I was zoned in. And it wasn't until we once we get it, I think we hit Najaf. We stayed there for a while, and it wasn't until we were going into Baghdad where I was a gunner on my truck. You know what I mean? Back then we had to build our own turrets. You know what I mean? We had the regular fiberglass vehicles. I mean, there was no special thing about our vehicles. I remember literally before we left, they gave me some boxes came in, and they're like, all right, these 5 tons are gonna become drum trucks. And we're like, all right, cool. He's like, okay, here's your parts and here's your manual. You guys are building it. I'm like, what? So I'm on top of my truck building my own turret, you know what I mean? And putting the bolts and all that. And like, hey, you better save my life here, So I made sure everything was tight, you know what I mean? Everything was torqued and everything was ready to go because we took our vehicles with us.
Okay.
And once we landed, we got all set up. And once we're getting close to Baghdad, I think we're in Scania. That was our last stop. And I was like, I forgot how long it took from there to Baghdad. But that's when I was like, that was that briefing. Like, look, we're getting into Baghdad. It was called IED Alley at the time, and you guys be ready. We don't know what's gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen, you know. So we were ready. My intuition, I didn't, like I said, I didn't know exactly what that meant at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that feelings because I've had it when I was a kid. So I knew that okay, it's game time. You know what I mean. So as I was going through there, I remember we made it through, past the swords, and then we made a right to go into Baghdad, and our LT was like, "All right, guys, we're gonna go into downtown. Be ready." So I'm on my 50 cal, scanning my sectors, man, like heart just pumping.
Hypervigilance.
Yeah, like boop, 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 boop. And I'm like, you can't hesitate, you can't hesitate, you can't hesitate, you gotta look, 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 look. And man, once we entered Baghdad, there was a protest. There was some sort of big giant gathering, man. They had this poster of this guy with his white hair. I wasn't sure exactly what it was, but it was like thousands of people. In we ended up in the LT made a wrong call. He ended up going into a crowd where basically nut to butt, you know what I mean, on the trucks, because we couldn't separate because the crowds will separate the convoy, and then we really be screwed.
Mm.
So the LT was like, "Hey, keep it tight, keep it tight, not the butt, not the butt." That's what they, it's kind of a funny thing, but we kept it real tight. So I'm on the gunning, and all I saw was a bunch of people staring at us. I saw people holding AKs and rooftops and everything, and my heart sunk. I was like, I was all like tough, 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 and all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm gonna die. No, it finally kicked me, and I remember praying.
Mm.
I was like, Lord, you know, uh, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And it wasn't to that point to where I surrendered.
Mm.
I've prayed and I've been saved and whatnot, but I literally was like, I I actually see that I'm probably not gonna come back. You know what I mean? That's when it really hits you.
Mm.
So I prayed and I was like, God, I surrender everything for you. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. And right when I fully released and surrender and basically accepted death,
That's
just died. Like I accepted death, like,
that's powerful. Yeah.
you know. And when I did that, I don't know if you ever played the game Halo,
No,
but you know,
but I
you know,
know.
how, you know how that there's a shield. Like once I did that, I felt I was clear.
Mm.
The fact that I took death out of it, I wasn't scared no more. I had
Mm.
no more fear. I was just, you can say, completely aligned.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And when I did that, I felt totally different person because I knew as a gunner you couldn't hesitate. You know what I mean? Because it could be the front truck, it could be you, it could be whatnot. So you had to be as vigilant as you can. But I knew if I allowed fear, if I allowed those, it's might cost my life and everybody else there.
Mm.
So when I surrendered and released and accepted death at that time, that's when I'm talking about the clairvoyant. Like everything was I felt
Clear.
a totally different person and clear headed. Good thing that we went through it. Nothing happened. We ended up getting where we were getting. You know, and you know, and that was awesome. you know, and I didn't know exactly what it was at the time, but I felt different. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the same person because I had a squad, you know, and they were scared, you know. And I remember there was a time when we got hit, you know, with small arms or whatnot. And I remember my squad would look at me like with this scared look, but I was the one like, we got this, like the charger.
Leading.
When they saw my clarity, my emotion, where I was at state of mind, it uplifted them and filled them up to do what we needed to do. It was a good thing. Like I said, nothing happened. I mean, they were climbing on our trucks. They were trying to pull our gear off. They were trying to like steal stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But we actually got through that point. You know what I mean? But just to go to another, that's when I felt more of my intuition kicking in, and that's why I
Yeah.
really want to express that. You know, I feel like the more I sat with it and the more I thought about it, where I felt where it activated um, to its like full potential at that
Yeah.
point when I was it was fight or flight. You know what I mean? At
Yeah.
that time. And later on, I remember we were going on missions, and we had to do like this resupply up in Baghdad Airport. And I remember LT's like, "Hey LG, I know you're gonna take the lead gun or lead truck, you know." And I was like, what, 20 years old, 20 years old, and I was taking lead truck. You know what I mean? We had like I forgot how many trucks we had, but I was the lead, he was the rear, you know. So he's like, "Yeah, you know the route, right?" I was like, "Yeah, Roger, I know the route, LT. We'll go." And I remember we were driving, and something was different about this time. We would hit that route all the time, you know. Well, we'll change up the pattern every now and then, not to be predictable,
Mm-hmm.
but we ended up going out that way again. And at this time, it was crowded. You know, you had people, you know, selling stuff on the side of the roads or whatnot. And I remember we were going, and as we were driving, kind of like weaving out through the crowd and kind of going in, it started getting kind of congested, you know. And there was a congestion point. Then once you pass that, it kind of clears up a little bit once you hit a checkpoint. So I remember, for whatever reason, something told me to be more vigilant than I usually am. You know what I mean? I am already, but something says, "Hey, you gotta pay attention." I remember
Mm-hmm.
every time I would go on convoy, I would take a deep breath. It was like game on, and that's when you know you bet you be in the game. You know what I mean? So I went, and this time I was on the gun and on the radio at the same time, and I had my driver, and we were driving, and I remember there was like a crowd, and for whatever reason, as we're going through it, it was getting pretty thick. And I remember LT's like, hey, LG, man, how's it looking up there? I'm like, I don't know, LT, it looks pretty tight, you know, but it's gonna clear up. But I don't know about this, you know. And he's like, well, you know, just keep going forward, keep going forward. And I was like, I don't know about that. Something telling me it's not right. You know what I mean? And I remember as I was scanning the crowd, or as we're going through the crowd, you know, it's loud. There's a lot of commotion. There's
I bet.
there's there's sirens. There's cars. It's just really loud. A lot of loud noise. But I was able to push all that out. And then because I was looking for something and I wasn't sure exactly what I was looking for. And I remember in the distance, there was a little girl, you know, and I wasn't sure exactly, you know, what it was, but there was some people around there going through whatever. But for whatever reason, I was drawn in a certain direction and I went. And she made this little hand gesture like this.
Hmm.
And the thing is that there's a lot of people, and for me to
Pick up that girl. Like,
to pick up that
yeah.
little zone,
Yeah.
because there'll be but the thing is that she wasn't the only one. There's a lot of kids. When we go out as the military, there's a bunch of kids saying you're number one, and some people throw MREs, which they shouldn't. You know, people, so they expect us to throw stuff, and there's kids everywhere. But for me to hone in that direction or whatever, and when I saw that, I was like, man, something told me like something ain't sit right, something ain't sit right. And the LT is like, hey man, what's going on? Because I start slowing down because I told my driver, like, hey, hold up, just keep creeping. And I was like, you know what? Something's not right. And then the LT is like, I called the LT and I was like, hey man, I don't know, man. I think we need to go a different route. And he's like, well, you make the call, dude. I'm back here, you know. And Talk about being 20 years old and making a call, and I was just sitting there going, all right, we're gonna go left. So I was like, hey, we're going left. So we went left, and we took a left, and we went. It was clear. It was good. We made it to the compound that we're going to, and we all got out. Everyone relaxed. We went to go eat, whatever. It was like, wait, whatever, like another day, like another mission. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
remember coming back to the trucks as we rallied up or whatnot to get ready to head on out. I remember the LT coming up to me and he's, hey man, hey, good call, man, good call. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, man, whatever. He's like, hey, another convoy went that direction, man, and they got hit.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit. I'm like, all right. But it wasn't like, oh wow. It was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, dang, that sucks. And then of course, go back, drive back. And it kind of went away. Kind of went on the next mission on the way
Mm-hmm.
back. I didn't really sit and like ponder and like, ooh, what was that? And no, it was like, okay, we made a good call. Let's make another one on the way back.
Next, yeah.
Let's roll again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So that I think that one was something that really stands out to really helped us out.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, those moments where it could have been you if you would have kept straight, right? What would have happened if the
Yeah.
so
No.
it's you can't help but to like wonder or ponder on that in the aftermath. When you had that moment, were you able on the spot or within a couple of days to realize, hey, that's intuition, or there's I have a gift, or I'm able to sense stuff, or was it only later on in your journey?
I think I didn't know it was intuition, because I know that the same feeling I've had has happened to me when I was a kid. So
Mm-hmm.
I was able to connect that back together again.
Okay,
Because, like I said, when I joined the military, my intuition kind of took a back seat. But when things started occurring when I was deployed, I started making connections back to childhood, back to experiences, back to whatever, was able to relate. And I
gotcha.
knew that there was something going on with me. And now I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention to this a little more. There's
Yeah,
something more to all this, you
yeah.
know?
So speaking of your childhood, you told me a pretty interesting story about how your dad basically trained you. Would you like to share how it connects to your childhood and how I guess your intuition or your hypervigilance was trained when you were young with your dad?
It was pretty cool because I I remember my dad. He lived a pretty rough childhood. He was brought up where there's a lot of gangs. Up back in Texas, so he lived a pretty hard life as far as surviving himself.
Mm.
But he ended up coming across someone that uh, he was a military. It was, I think, a Vietnam vet,
Mm.
and it was him and a group of people, and for whatever reason, they were drawn to this guy, and this guy was teaching them how to fight, how to street fight, how to protect themselves and whatnot. He was
Mhm,
kind of looking
mhm.
after. He was that kind of, you can say, that vet that's kind of whatever, but trying to help out the best way he can.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember my dad's like, so my dad started teaching me. I remember he was like, "Hey son, there's like a little peanut in your head." I'm like, "A peanut? What are you talking about, Dad? A peanut?" He called it a peanut. Now I know it's pineal gland or whatever.
Pineal
Uh,
gland, yeah.
yeah. I was like, peanut. He's like, no. He's like, there's something in there, that helps you. And if you meditate and you take the time and you focus and your emotions and whatever, because I had a hot temper when I was a kid. Hot temper was, and my dad taught me that too. I remember as my dad was teaching me how to fight. I remember I got jumped by a kid and he beat me up in fourth grade. So I came home all
Bruised up.
whatever. Yeah. And it was that time my dad was like, all right, I need to teach you how to teach you how to fight now. So I remember my dad started teaching me how to fight, and then I remember he started teaching me about meditating. He started teaching me about controlling my emotions.
Mm.
I remember there was a day I lost my temper, and my dad's like, he pushed me on the ground, and I get mad and I do that whole. I remember I'm in fourth grade, right? And I
And
remember doing that little, and I go, ah, I come at my dad. My dad's like, boop. It's like, all right, come on again. See what you got. And I come out again. Ah, push me on the ground again. I think about the fifth time I was like, I'm so tired. And he comes at me and he pushes me again. He's like, so how's that helping you being angry?
Mm.
He's like, I'm in control. My emotions is at bay. You're coming with just anger and you're just getting exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
You need to harness that, hold that back, and utilize it in spurts in your punches, or how you strategically plan how you're going to defend yourself.
Karate Kid moment here.
Yeah, you could say that. You know what I mean? And I was a kid, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, what's going on? He's like, no, you need to control that, because if the other person is in control themselves,
Yeah, yeah.
you're gonna lose every single time.
Mm,
That was like my little teaching moment right there.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I remember my dad's like, he would take me and my big brother, and he used to take us through alleys. He's like, all right, we're gonna go take a walk, but as we walk, I want you just block everything out. I want you to just remember what you hear, not what you see, what you hear as you're walking. And when we get back, you're gonna write everything down that you heard.
Wow.
And I was like, I thought it was a game. I was like, oh, cool, we get to
Yeah.
see what we can hear. You know what I mean? So we go down the alley, and I'm like, I hear a dog, I hear, whatever, whatever. Of course, my list was like 5 things. Dog barking, AC unit, you know what I mean? I could hear the AC, like things that were obvious. And then my dad listed his stuff. It was like 25 things. He's like, well, I heard this. I heard the rocks kicking. I heard this. He was got in real detail. He's like, look, it's more than just hearing.
Mm-hmm.
It's really deepening your hearing for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh. And then he taught us how to use our peripheral vision. Like when we punch or whatever. He
Yeah.
says,
The side.
exactly. So at fourth grade, he started teaching about what peripheral vision was. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay. So those little moments, I started going, oh, so he was making more self-aware. And I remember, and this is before, like, you gotta understand, this is back in the 80s, you know what I mean? So there was
Yeah.
no internet to Google anything, so my dad was
Yeah.
doing his best as a father, and he was showing me how to meditate. And he really didn't know, but it was more than that. It was just the concept of just sitting with yourself.
Yeah.
And I
And
think that
being
was,
aware.
yeah, and that's what he was. And I remember I was in my bed, and I was able to like really think of everything my dad was telling me. And then for whatever reason, I was drawn to Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, you know. And I remember seeing Bruce Lee do his meditating, and I would watch other martial art movies about meditation or whatnot, a lot of the VHS tapes back then. And
Yeah.
and I remember, there might be something to this. And I remember out of the blue, I was in my bed, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna meditate, just like them. And I remember I crossed my legs, and I remember I don't know how I had my hands or whatever, and I remember breathing through my nose, and for whatever reason, I just started humming, like,
Mm.
um,
Um,
you know, and I kept doing it, and then all of a sudden, I just blanked out. And I remember I don't know how long it was, but I remember coming back to it. And I'm like, huh, was I asleep or
mm.
like I was like, well, wow, like, and I felt refreshed, like real energized, And I remember my dad was telling me to say the word power at the time. I would breathe in and go power, but I would think
Like a
power.
mantra.
I get, yeah, I didn't know what it was at the time, so I was
Yeah.
doing that over and over until I just kind of just was gone, and then I came back to my realization. Okay, I'm in my bed, and I was like, well, that felt good, and I went on my life from there. But it wasn't until then to where I started noticing, like I said, my surroundings. There was a
Mm-hmm.
time where I almost got kidnapped. I remember I was my dad told me, hey, because we lived in a bad neighborhood,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've told me
and,
about that. Yeah.
and my dad's like, hey, you're gonna go ride the bike, but don't go anywhere else. I was a little rebel. I always tend to go out more than I should anyway.
Venture.
Yeah, I like to really adventure. But this time I was like, I'm gonna listen to my dad, I'm gonna go and just ride my bike in this area. So I went and drive my bike in there, and I'm just kind of like, a little kid, just going in circles, because it was a little park where all the cars parked. So I'm just going in circles, going in circles, going in circles. And then as I was not paying attention, I was going in circles. But as I was going in circles, I was getting kind of close to the curb where the street was. But I noticed when I made a couple laps, for some reason something was like, something told me to stop. And as I stopped and looked up, I was at least not too far from the curb. There was a car right there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the guy. He was a guy. He had like a 5 o'clock shadow, long hair, evil looking eyes. Man, this guy was looking to do some dark stuff. You know what I mean?
Mm, you could sense it.
I can sense it. I can sense that it was something draw. And I went and I made eye contact with him. I looked stared in his eyes, and I went and I looked at him, and he looked right at me, and he goes for his door handle, and he opens the door, and he starts opening it. And then I was looking, I was like, oh, I'm out. So
That's
I
it.
left. I jetted, man. Went to the house, went to the apartment, and I knocked on the door. I was like, Dad, some guy was gonna try to take me, whatever. And of course, my dad was like, "You didn't get the license plate." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I was mad. He was like, "Who's trying to take you?" Because my dad's
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was a Marine, and he became a firefighter. He was a firefighter, you know. So he was just like, "Who's trying to hurt you?" You know. And I was like, no. So that was the instance where that came in handy. And then I remember I was walking to school, and it was about a few blocks. And I remember I was going to school, and I remember we weren't supposed to take this alley, and it was a quicker way to go to school. And I've taken it before, and it's just the trash cans back there or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take it even though my dad told me not to because it was just quicker sometimes. But for whatever reason, this time was different. I was walking and I was going, and then of course, I was a kid that walked with my head down, my little backpack, And as I was walking and as I was making that turn into it, I felt something, and I was like, look up, and I went, and in the distance, I saw a group of people. And now, when I'm thinking of, they were probably doing a drug deal or some crap back there or whatever, though. But I'm a
Mm-hmm.
kid, you know what I mean. But for me to like stand there and like, there's something going on, and it was like danger, 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 like boom, 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 boom. And I was gonna go, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna be out here. I'm gone,
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what would have happened? I'm not saying something would have happened though, but
Mm-hmm.
it was another tick of something's going on,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that happened. And then I remember and as I got older, uh and I got into high school, I started noticing some intuition hits as far as knowing things before things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just high school stuff. It was like I would have a girlfriend or whatever, and then for whatever reason I would wake up and be like, wait a minute, something's gonna happen today. I feel like she's gonna break up with me today. And there was no indication that she was or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I would go, and she'd be like, "Oh, I don't think we're gonna work out." And it was just high school stuff. But it's like
Yeah.
little things like that. I go back and I remember. It was
Mm-hmm.
always something ahead of something, and I would feel it in my stomach. And
Mm.
sometimes I would like dry heave or something. Like I'll get so like stomach like where I get too nervous,
Yeah,
and then
yeah, yeah.
you know, and that's usually an indication where I feel like something's gonna happen at the time. And at the time, I didn't know what it all was, but I knew something was going on, and there were like little minor things.
Mm-hmm.
But as you think about it, it's intuition's everything.
Yeah, it is. And in hindsight, it's always easier now that you have the vocabulary, you've
Yeah.
done also the Atmana training, you've worked some stuff and you got the breadcrumbs, the information. Now it's easier to go back and be like, oh, that's what it was. Oh, that's what it was too. And it seems to me like you have a lot of different stories where I have a question for you. I don't know if you have an answer, but there's always that vocabulary thing with intuition versus instinct. Because
Yes.
it seems to me like your intuition kicks in for you at moments where you're about to die or life is being threatened. So,
Mhm.
would you say there's a difference between intuition and instinct? And if so, what is that difference for you?
I think when it comes to instincts, it's things you learn as skills. It's more experience stuff. Like you learn. It's more of like a learning thing. I
Okay.
think when it comes to the intuition aspect of things, I think it's more cognitive, and it's more strategic. Like you're planning it out. You're planning out scenarios. Like you're really thinking in depth. And when I say that, I'm talking about like putting pictures together, like visuals.
Hmm.
I see words. You know what I mean? Like danger, something bad, or
Okay.
like a spider sense, like
Mm-hmm.
there's like a
Mm-hmm.
nagging thing. And
Yeah.
I think and of course instinct, yeah, I think instinct came in handy too. You know what I mean? Living in a bad neighborhood. My dad teaches me how to fight. I remember in seventh grade I got jumped by five guys. You know what I mean? But I knew it was gonna happen before it did, and I was prepared to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
I oh yeah,
So
go ahead.
would you say that you kind of like, as you mentioned, you kind of knew it was going to happen, you were going to get jumped. That's kind of like your intuition telling you like, hey, this is about to happen. And then as you're in the fight, your instinct, like your reflexes,
Yeah.
your training of like, I've done this before, so I know how to like fight. I know how to, manage myself in this situation. That's more instinctual.
Yes, correct. I think
Mm.
instinctively is more like learn how to fight and reflexes and
Yeah.
moving. it's this things that you're learning, as far as experience. It's like a
Yeah.
data of information or past stuff, whatever. But when it
Mhm.
comes, I think, intuition, when you combine both of it, not only you have the skills and the experience or whatnot, though, but you're allowing the different type of what intuition gives you to actually play it out as
Mm.
far as trying to strategically get the result that you want.
Yeah. I like that integration because sometimes we try to separate things. Is it genetic versus experiential, the whole like in psychology, the whole twin experience.
Yeah.
Is it innate or you acquired it with experience? Were you born with it or whatnot? And it's both.
Yeah.
Why not combine all our forces to make us like superheroes and superpowers?
No, because I know there's like impulse as well. There's impulse, instinct, and
Mm.
there's also the intuition. And people can have bad impulses. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or you can have the impulse to go save someone in a burning building.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's good and bad. And
Yeah.
instinct, like I said, it's based off like experience of what you've learned from trial and error. You can say, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
But using intuition, it's more like a roadmap, more
Yeah.
I think it's your antenna. You're receiving
Yeah.
that information, you're downloading, and then you
Hmm.
utilize everything to make the best result or the best call you can make.
I'm glad you're touching on impulse because I think intuition is not impulse. Some people say like, "Oh, I don't want to be impulsive and reactive." Well, I think
Mhm.
when you're really honed and tapped in your intuition, and like your dad taught you to be in control of your emotions, then you're not so much in reactive state and in the impulsive
Mhm.
state, but you're able to
Right.
control the downloads or control what information is coming in to respond instead of react.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I think that's something to learn with time or get trained or whatnot. But yeah, very, very cool stories, Eric. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm curious now, how do you use your intuition in your daily life now as a practicing coach? How does it manifest? Like when you were young, it was a lot like street fighting, survival in the military, changing career, and now how does intuition serve you in your job?
Oh wow. You know
Mm.
what? I think as I continue to improve, I think it's like I'm still in Jedi training. You know what I mean? You can say, I love Star Wars or whatnot too.
Yeah,
So
me too.
yeah. So
Good
but I like,
reference.
yeah, but it's like anything. I have to train. I have to. But what I love about it is the fact that instead of it being scatterbrain now, I'm okay with it now. I
Mm,
understand it more now, and I'm at peace with it, and I'm allowing it to flow
mm,
within myself.
mm,
And as I use it in a daily thing, I use it with my kids. I use it with my wife. You know,
mhm,
I use it now where when I talk to someone or when I'm coaching someone, I'm using everything. I'm using the instinct. I'm using every aspect of it to really go to the root and understand what's going on with the individual and help unraveling the clutter, unraveling the mess. Because like a lot of people just are born into the world and trying to figure out to live the world. You know what I mean? And they
mhm,
lose track of where they kind of pivoted or what trial or error that they had in their life, and everything gets like a ball of yarn that's all raveled.
mm.
And I just take the time with that individual to untangle it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and the thing is, they have all the answers, but sometimes things get kind of blurred out,
Mm,
kind of cluttered, kind of
mm.
kind of scattered. And I go there and I kind of um, tighten up their shot group on
Yeah,
on their
yeah.
thinking, and then they're like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't think about that,"
Mm.
or this is going on. So we're able to kind of like pinpoint and kind of like align things, and then figure out how we can just go on, from there.
With your clients when you're coaching
Yeah,
people. Yeah. So it's helping you to get a good sense of who they are, what their clutter is, and you're able to kind of like focus everything back in line and help them like have a breakthrough, which is what you
yeah,
do, right?
exactly.
Helping people.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I used to look at the military as it messed me up. You know what I mean? When I got out, like I said, my transition was bad. So I was like, oh man, I wish I was back in, or it was better and was
Mm,
in there. And the reason why I haven't figured out my life is because was the military. I had a lot of blame with it. You
mm,
know what I mean? Because we're not. I feel um, like there's just certain things that when people military transition is that you're just kind of out of whack a little bit, you know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
out of it, you just start guilting, and then
Mm-hmm.
depression, and then doubt, and then all these negative self-talk that you say to
Yeah.
yourself, you know, you just bring yourself down. So I go there and I really help, you know, to really, um, you can say my Wi-Fi connection is getting pretty good now to where I can actually connect with them. You know, you talk about synchronicity.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just figure out not necessarily the root, but let's kind of unravel things and just kind of give you more clarity, more
Yeah.
understanding of
Yeah.
what is going on, you know, and what you can do to transform your life. And it doesn't
I,
have to be that way.
yeah, I like that. You mentioned like going from survival mode to thriving mode
Yeah.
is essentially what I'm hearing. And also that instead of staying in that victim mode and blaming and shaming, you stepped out of it. You found a way out. And it seems to me that you're doing the same now with your clients as they feel stuck, they feel in that ball of yarn, and
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I can show you the way, I can help you make sense of the clutter. And sometimes we can look back at those hard moments, whether it's the military or bullying when we were a child and whatnot, and be like, hey, you know what? Thank you. Thank you, life, or thank you to these people for allowing us to experience that moment that was very painful at the time, but breaking through out of it and evolving from it. And that's kind of like how it goes.
No, you're right. Because as a veteran, I was always like going back to the past. I was that
Mm-hmm.
person that lived in the past all the time. And
Mm.
whatever emotion that I felt, or I would relate it to the present. You know what I mean? I would always like, I would be out of it. I would always go back to like, oh, if I would have did this, or if I would have done that in the convoy,
What
or
if, yeah.
change this outcome, and and my wife would be like, hey, where you at? Are you here? Your kids are trying to talk to you. What's going
Mm-hmm.
on here? I was always not here, always
Mm-hmm.
not here, and I was always stuck. I was always stuck, and always stressed out, and depressed. I was in a bad depression for a long while. I was depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love myself. I didn't care about myself. I was more like, you know, I'm here for my family. I make sure my kids are going. Whatever happens to me. I had that
Yeah.
mentality. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But uh, but I know that as I'm going through it, my transformation and the good that's come out of it,
Mm.
really, I'm really excited of what good that I can bring to people.
Good.
You know.
I'm glad to hear. If there are any veterans or military people listening, do you have any piece of advice for them, like kind of a tool to put in their toolbox that you'd say helped you to overcome your challenges?
I think I would say you can't do it alone.
Mm,
Don't think that you can figure it all out yourself. That all you can just do it in your head, you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
or because you'll be at times where you just feel defeated every single
Mm,
day. You'll be stuck. And a lot of
yeah.
them don't like to reach out. A lot of them like to spend on Call of Duty or whatever they're gonna do it in their own little zone. And I was the same way. I still play Call of Duty every now and then, you know. But I didn't want no one to help me.
Mm-hmm. I can
I
do it
had
on
to
my own.
I had to figure this out
Be
myself.
tough. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that was one of the big things that I if I would do different, I would do different. I would reach out to people. I would find, I want to say anybody, people that are going to help you level up. People that
Yeah.
are going to, yeah, people are going to help you level up. People that are going to have a positive influence in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And as I grew and I started doing those things, I started disconnecting with people that weren't making my life so good.
Mm,
And that's okay. And there's going to be times where you're going to feel alone when you do that.
yeah.
I made the right decision.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because
I
now,
do. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, oh, now they're gonna think, "Ooh, I'm becoming this person or what?" No, dude, it's you're changing yourself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and as you continue to do that, your life's gonna look different.
Yeah.
It's gonna look better, and it might not seem like it or look like that, but it is going to be that. You know what I mean? And I think knowing, don't do it alone. Reach
Mm-hmm.
out. That's one thing I did. I wouldn't even connect with my other veterans, and if we did, it would be jokes and memes, and you know, it would be talk about the good old days or whatnot. You know, and I think another big thing is that I got rid of alcohol. That was a big.
Mm,
You know, I noticed when I got out, I was uh, I had an addiction personality. I would get connected with things. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I realized they're all coping mechanisms,
Yeah, absolutely.
all coping mechanisms. And what I didn't like about what alcohol did to me was it felt good when you started, where I feel good, I feel good again, or
Hmm.
you bring back the old good Charlie days. We were hanging out with your boys, try to experience that same good feeling like you were in the military, but you're not. And
Hmm.
then when you get off that binge or get off that cycle or whatever, you start feeling this wave of emotions, man. This
Yeah.
anxiety, this, and you just like, and then what happens? I got to drink
Yeah.
just down one in the. Let me keep
You got to
downing.
keep it up, right?
You
Because the
got you got to
alcohol
keep
is
it
a
up.
depressor, and it's going to make you
Yeah.
feel even worse in the aftermath. I'm glad you're touching on alcohol, because if I can share a part of my story, I also stepped away from alcohol, and any drugs and anything. I retreated in a cave at a specific time in my life, and I love to party and from a small town, and people know me. My friends knew me from being the life of the party and making jokes. And when I retreated, it was kind of like, whoa, where's she going? You're not drinking, you're not partying. And it was like, no. And I needed that to step away, to step back in.
Mhm.
It felt like I needed to step away for a while, to really like tune in and figure out what was going on. And it was tough. It was tough because I was feeling like I was letting people down, and I didn't want people to think like I'm better than you and so on. But there was like something needed to break in order to reassemble, like a butterfly, I would say, like a
Yeah.
caterpillar. You just like enzyme degrade everything and
Yeah.
rebuild yourself back up. And it's not good or bad, it just is. But it can be scary for the people around, because they feel like they're losing you, and you're also feel maybe like you're letting people down. But anyway, I just wanted to share that piece of information, because I can
You know
relate.
what? You know what? That's awesome to hear, Chantel. It's
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, it's a good feeling. And you don't feel like it in the beginning, like you said. Like I
Mm.
remember, you know what? I remember I would when I was working Friday. I fell in this whole routine like everyone does. It would be what Monday, the drag when you go to work, and then Tuesday, and then hump day, and then Thursday, bar time or whatever, and then Friday, all the workers will go, and then Saturday party, and then Sunday recover, and then drag your back in the Monday, and then for the girls to be ladies' night on Thursdays, and then it's just this cycle that you just get caught up into.
Hmm.
And then I remember, and it was my intuition talking to me. I remember where I was working. I remember no one wanted to go to the bar afterwards. Everyone has stuff to do, so I went by myself. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to the bar and have me a few when I get home, kind of decompress. And that's what I don't like about a lot of the social media. They always do this whole alcohol where everyone's having a good time and all that.
Mm.
They always correlate that as that's what the regular. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I remember going to the bar and I remember sitting down and this individual walks up to me and he was an old guy. And this guy looked like, I'm not trying to be mean. This guy looked like he was decomposing, man. Poor guy.
Mm.
Skin was just out of whack. But he had a big old smile, a little missing teeth or whatever. He's coming in. He's like, "How you doing, sir?" And I'm like, when I looked at him, I saw like this guy's gonna pass soon. Like it was like this guy's life
Mm.
was like, and even though he had the biggest smile on his face, his life was in shambles. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I was just sitting there drinking my beer, kind of like, what is going on? Like my intuition was kicking.
Mm.
And I remember he comes on here, and the bartender was like, "Hey, how you doing, such and such?" He's like, "Oh, I'm doing good." And the bartender was like, "Oh, he's the regular." And for whatever reason, I put my beer down like this, and I just had a daydream of a regular. Is that going to be my life if I'm a regular?
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually put myself in his shoe, like it
Like
kind of
like
it
a
came clear, like, dude, you need to rethink the way your life is.
yeah. Like a Scrooge moment, when he's like seeing
Yeah,
different ghosts of his past and looking at
exactly.
his
That's a
life
good.
and just being
That's
like, whoa, is that going to be me in the future? Wait a minute. Ding, ding.
and check this out. I saw him, and I didn't have more than two beers that night because I was like, because it was like, it was like, it was just like And it was like a self-realization, like, where's my life going? And I remember I stepped away from that. And that was a big highlight of my moment. That was like, I don't know, maybe 2017 or whatever. I don't remember. It was a while back. And just to fast forward, as I was going through my transformation in my life, and I remember in like 2022, maybe 2021 or whatever, when things were kind of opening up a little bit with the pandemic and the gym started opening up. I remember going to the gym, and I was working out with this guy, and this guy, he's a real good physique, you know, and he comes in there loud as can be, you know, going there, oh man, I sure could lift some weights and da 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 da, you know, all spunky and whatever, and I'm just happy to do whatever weight I'm doing or whatever. And he comes up to me and says, hey, how you doing, man? And I was like, I'm doing good, man. He's like, I'm a regular. He said those same words.
Same words.
And I was able to go correlate back to that and to him. And
Mm.
something told me, what type of regular do you want to be in your life?
Mm.
You see where I'm going with that?
Powerful. Yeah. No, no accident.
Yeah. And I saw that and I'm like, I'm on the right track because I'd rather be a
Mm.
regular, transforming myself mentally, health,
Yeah.
every aspect of myself.
Yeah.
So it
Taking
really
care of your
brings to
health.
light. Yeah.
Mm. Cool story, Eric. We could talk for hours.
I know. Yeah.
I love it. You got so much good nuggets, so much good stuff you shared with us today. And I'm sure it resonated with a lot of our listeners. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your stories. And if people want to reach out to you, there will be links, emails, your LinkedIn account in the description. Eric Longoria, thanks again for this amazing podcast.